Hello and welcome to Natural Stone Outlet. Today we are going to talk about some of the main beige limestones from Portugal. There is a lot of demand for this kind of stones, and Portugal is a great source of beige limestone. So let's have a look at it. So on this side we have the Moca Cream limestone, which is a very famous Portuguese limestone. It's a beige color. On the top we have the medium grain. On the bottom we have the fine grain. So what makes this limestone so special is its parallel vein, which runs along its surface. So you can see this is how the stone is extracted, like this. And what we see is a light beige background, where on the vein we get a little bit darker, kind of bit coffee color, light brown color. So we see some little bit of contrast between the light part and the vein, so which gives a lot of power, a lot of relevance to the stone. So it is a stone with a lot of personality. So this is the medium grain Mocha Cream, which is mostly used on exterior cladding. In the bottom we have the fine grain variation, which by the way is a honed sample, which makes the stone a little bit lighter. The top one is a polished sample, so you can see more power on the color. So the fine grain, it's pretty much like the medium grain. So we have fine grain, but parallel structure, parallel vein along its surface. The background is light beige, and on this case, because we don't have much grain, the grain is not so thick, it becomes lighter, so there's not so much contrast. The fine grain is also used as cladding interior applications, for example. Moleanos limestone. Here we have very famous kind of limestone. A lot of people would know about it, the Moleanos. Here we have two variations. On the top we have the Moleanos Classic. On the bottom we have the Moleanos Fine. The Moleanos Classic is a hard kind of limestone with a lot of availability, lots of blocks available. And it has a main characteristic which is the medium grain structure. The color is very plain, very beige, light beige. It's very uniform, but it has the medium grain structure and quite some occasional shells and fossils. Not too many, but just with the right balance. This is a hard limestone, as I said, which is commonly used on exterior or interior applications. In the bottom we have the fine grain Moleanos, which has a fine structure, very plain and light beige background, and it's a little bit predictable, this stone. So there's not so much variation, which people like, and it is mostly used on interior applications. So these two Moleanos, they compare a bit. You can see that the top one, because of the grain, has a bit more power, a bit more color, more beige, and the bottom one is a bit more plain. So this is the Moleanos limestone. So on this side we have a couple of interesting limestones, not so known, but still with growing demand. On the top we have the Hosel. The Hosel is a light beige limestone with a very fine structure. So we have three samples just to show you the variation of this stone, so this is quite interesting to see. So here what we have is a very fine kind of Hosel with a very plain background, light beige, with hardly any variation. This one in the middle has a bit of a thick or medium to low to fine grain. You can see a little bit, so it makes it a bit darker. So you can see some dark shaded areas, for example, which makes the whole beige a little bit more brown. So it's another variation of the Hosel, and you might find some occasional lines here and there. And this one here on this side has a very fine color, very fine beige color, but with some occasional clouds, dark clouds here and there. So it's still very discreet, but has a different look. So all of the three represent well what you can expect with the Hosel limestone. So this might be all in the same block, maybe yes, maybe not. The selection depends on each supplier. Maybe a supplier will have all of them in the same crate. Perhaps they will make a selection per crate. And in the bottom we have the Cabeça de Veada limestone, which is the new star in the market. So this limestone is very popular because it's very close to Moleanos Fine, which is by itself already a very popular stone, but not so known. So here we have a limestone with a lot of availability, lots of new quarries coming up, and it has a very plain structure, Very predictable, very fine grain, very good color, not so much contrast. And it's a very interesting limestone, like the Moleanos fine. It has a lot of demands. And this is mostly used on interior applications or exterior cladding. So this is it about the Portuguese beige limestones. Most of these limestones are quite popular and have a lot of demands. They also have a lot of availability. So if you need to know any more information about beige limestones, you can check our blog, our videos, or just be in touch with us. Thank you for watching.